Okay, hello everybody. This is Kayla from Burlington Green, and we are live. And I apologize for those of you who were looking forward to joining us on Facebook. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, and I wasn't able to add Steve from Bay Area Restoration Council. So we had to flip this over to Instagram. So for those of you, don't worry if you don't have Instagram. You'll be watching this on the replay. I'll upload this to Facebook, so those without Instagram will be able to capture all this wonderful information. So first things first, I just want to remind everybody, thanks Grace. I just want to remind everybody, if you have not watched the runoff video with Bark and BG, it is on our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So please give that a view and please give that a view, a like, and a share. So in it, Christine and Steve from Bay Area Restoration Council chat about the issues with runoff and kind of explore what is currently being done. And we also talk about some other issues like pollutants in the water and microplastics and how this impacts the ecosystem at large. And then the video flips over to me where I just discuss some solutions and actions that you can take at home. And this initiative is part of our Community Eco Network. So the Community Eco Network is a monthly event where we highlight different environmental issues and chat about things like biodiversity or habitat restoration and how we can help, especially from home, as a lot of us have had to kind of pivot and do a lot more things just in our home or on our properties. So this is supported by Nouveau Network. So I just want to thank Nouveau Network for their support and allowing BG to continue this impactful work. And of course, thank you to Christine and Steve from Bark for sharing their knowledge and expertise with us. So without further ado, we're going to invite Steve in. Let's see. Oh, should I? Okay, here we go. With Hamilton Harbor.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi. It's
Hi.
working.
Yay. I'm so sorry. I'm not too sure exactly what happened, but I'm happy that we were able to flip it over to Instagram
Definitely.
and
Here
meet
we are.
here. Perfect. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's really hot out in Hamilton today, so I'm kind of enjoying the air conditioning at the moment. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so did you want to start with any intros or do you want me to just
Sure.
get okay.
Sure. So I guess I'll just say who we are at Bark if you haven't seen the video. So my name is Steve. I'm from the Bay Area Restoration Council in Hamilton, or BARC, BARC, and we work in the public interest in the restoration of Hamilton Harbor. So our bread and butter, what we do usually on a regular year, is education programs in schools with usually grade 1 to 4, but a range of students, about insects, turtles, frogs, water quality, all those sorts of things, and getting kids to see bugs and touch frog models and sea turtle models, what lives in our waterways, and also how we can help them locally. And also do a range of environmental volunteer programs to get our community out to the water's edge and actually contribute to restoration and also get to see the water, because sometimes people live in Hamilton but don't often get down to the water. So giving them that entry point is what we do. And yeah, Christine and I made a few videos this summer and happy to share with Burlington Green and all of you. And yeah, I guess we could be getting into some questions about the video and stormwater and all that beautiful stuff.
Awesome. So I'm just curious, like, have you been a lot like Burlington Green? Like we've had to obviously kind of pivot and focus a lot more on online engagements, and I guess Bark is kind of in the same area.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of summer camps online. So we give kids we call it a camp in a bag, where we have some crafts and some clay and those sorts of things. And then we run a Zoom meeting with a bunch and talk about our program, and then we run the actual craft with them. So it's kind of nice to still see their faces and they still get excited and ask really good questions. So it's a bit of a change not being in classrooms and in person, but it's going really well. So we're happy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. So I just wanted to remind everybody, for those of you that have joined, if you have any questions, just write in the comment box. And I don't know if I'll be much help, but I'm sure Steve will be able to lend all of his knowledge. So I actually did have a question. I have a list of some that I wanted to ask. Actually, the first one that we didn't really get to, I know Christine had touched on it, but unfortunately there wasn't enough time in the video. But I just wanted to know if you could expand on the cross connections. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so sometimes the cross connections means that wastewater from our houses goes to the stormwater drains, and the stormwater goes to the wastewater treatment plant. So those get mixed up. Where our sewer water, like our toilet water and shower, should be going to a wastewater treatment plant. Sometimes if they're cross connected, they'll get mixed up and it'll go to the wrong place. So we don't want our wastewater going to, so when we're flushing our toilets, taking showers, doing our dishes, we don't want that going directly to our sewer system, especially because some of them aren't connected to, or they are connected directly to waterways. So that means that untreated sewage can be going into our waterways. And then where stormwater can be generally flushed into our waterways safely, so we don't need to take up capacity with that rain going to our wastewater treatment plant necessary. So making sure that those cross connections are proper so that we're directing the water in the right places, because it's nasty when you see like condoms and needles and all that stuff in our waterways just because it's the wrong connection.
Okay. So I'm just curious about the history, like the cross connections that we might see in different cities. Was that something that was like built years back, or?
Yeah, so some of the newer developments also have the cross connections that are mixed up just because things happen very quickly and then things just happen. So most of the older neighborhoods are okay, but a lot of the newer neighborhoods, they have to do those, dig up the road and actually fix that. So very costly, but obviously worth it because we don't want that sewage going directly into our waterways.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the old neighborhoods are okay, although they do get flushed into our waterways directly. Yeah, it's a matter of the city kind of going sewer by sewer and house by house in those areas, which is very timely, time consuming, and very, very expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. So then another question I had, so about, because I read that when I was kind of researching up on what we can do at home, I read that, when you're washing your car, that's like one of the worst things that you can do, because all of the chemicals that you're using, like the soap and everything, is going directly into the storm drain. So that, and then commercial car washes, that water is actually being treated before it's released into our waterways.
Yeah, so washing your car in the driveway doesn't seem like it'd be not environmentally friendly just because you're not using that amount of water at a car wash or that amount of soap they're using. But in reality, the soap that you're using, if you're washing on your driveway, will run down your driveway onto the street and then make its way into our catch basins, which, like I said, are sometimes connected directly to a waterway, so untreated going into our waterways. So a lot of the detergents that we use have certain chemical compounds, even the biodegradable ones have these chemical compounds that can affect aquatic life pretty drastically. There's these, it's called their surfactants. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but those chemical compounds in the detergents actually affects the water tension, the surface water tension in our waterways, which affects fish, can break down their mucus on their body, which makes them susceptible to parasites and disease, can affect their reproduction and those sorts of things. And then also all of that soap and grease and oil that's running from our driveway, from our cars, can affect our other wildlife, like our turtles and frogs, who are very sensitive to those things, who breathe through their skin, taking water through their skin. That's how they're breathing and getting their energy. So making sure that if you are going to wash your car at home, wash it on the grass to soak up those detergents and chemicals a little bit better. If you do have a rain garden at home, that's even better to kind of flush those chemicals into the rain garden to soak all that pollutant up. Or if you just go to a commercial car wash, they are actually, usually they recycle their water, so it's used more than once. And then they also have to follow the City of Hamilton's sewer use bylaw. So they have to have a certain amount of sediment that can be flushed out, and also levels of toxicity have to be monitored. So they are pretty much regulated, whereas your driveway, you can use as much soap as you want, or as much water as you want. So if you do have the option to go to a car wash, great. If not, your other option would be the grass. I would recommend.
Okay, thanks. And one thing that I really found super interesting, Christine talked about microplastics and how that gets into our waterways, and it might be from microfibers. When we wash our clothes, all that gets into the waterways too. But something that I thought was so interesting, I had no idea, microplastics from our tires, like on our cars and stuff.
Yeah, so tires are the the biggest factor in microplastics. So when we're all driving our cars and then that slowly wears away and then it rains, it all gets flushed into our waterways, and you barely can see it, if at all. And then those things get eaten up by turtles and frogs and fish and insects and all those sorts of things, and then makes its way up the food chain to fish and probably us eventually. And yeah, microplastics, although those small ones are really, really important. When I'm down by the harbor and I see quarter-size microplastics all the time, just because of that runoff. So stormwater and runoff is the biggest contributing factor. And although it's hard to avoid buying clothes that give off microplastics, or your tires, just being conscious of the decisions you make, or maybe not driving in the rain so often, or buying more eco-friendly clothes, or thrifting and those sorts of things. Yeah, just being kind. If you are down by the harbor and you see plastic, pick it up. That's all. And yeah, just again, making sure that you're doing whatever you can manage financially or whatever, to avoid those things, because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, those microplastics. You don't see them when they're in your washing machine. You don't see them when you're driving. So just knowing that they're there is the good start.
Thanks. Yeah, that's something I never even really considered was, when we think about driving, we think about the impact, that it has with pollution, not so much like the physical, impact of microplastics coming off your tire. So I definitely thought that was really interesting. So thank you for sharing that. And sorry, just going back to the car wash, we just have a question. I know you mentioned biodegradable soap is still not always, but what about natural plant-based soap for washing our car?
Yeah, so plant-based soap would be great. As long as you choose soaps that have no phosphates, because they're kind of the biggest issue. So if you're looking at all natural, organic, plant-based soaps, that should be fine. But also kind of at the same time monitoring your water use. So you can use up to upwards of 450 liters of water just washing your car. So whereas a commercial car wash, it's pretty low considering. So although the soap's really important, also monitoring your water consumption is a big factor too.
Okay, thank you. And this question I almost don't even want to ask. I kind of was debating because it's summertime and I'm loving this weather, but as you and Christine spoke about in the video, we know road salt is a huge issue as well. So I know that there are some alternatives. I've seen, sand. A lot of people use sand, or like brine. So are those like the best options as opposed to using salts for the wintertime?
Yeah, so brine and sand, they're definitely better options. They do always also get flushed into our waterways. But believe it or not, the biggest, I guess, advice I would give for road salt or alternative, would be to use less salt. So that sounds really stupid. It sounds like a really obvious answer, but using only the salt that you need on your sidewalks, or if you see the salt on your sidewalk, that's probably too much. So, and working with, there's organizations working with private companies like malls and big parking lots like that to actually reduce the amount of salt we're using, because we're just dumping it and dumping it and dumping it and dumping it, and we're not realizing what we're doing. So although there is alternative, salt is it does the best job. So if we're going to use salt, make sure we're regulating it, certifying truck drivers and operators so that they know how much to use and when to use it and those sorts of things. And then again, encouraging people to wear proper footwear. I mean, it seems obvious. If we're using less salt, like don't be wearing high heels or, slippery shoes and those sorts of things. So yeah, I don't think we're really going to get over the use of salt at the moment, which sucks for our aquatic life and the spring melts. But if we're going to use salt, at least regulate it and make sure that we're monitoring those sorts of things.
Okay. Thank you. And I think for myself, that was all the questions I have. I don't know if you want to, if you wanted to chat about anything else or any common questions that that you come across at BARC in regards to.
Yeah. Sure. So a lot of the questions we get is about algae blooms in the harbor. So especially at Bayfront Park, some people say it smells like dead fish or something really nasty, and that's probably just dead algae. So with runoff comes fertilizer and everything else on our grasses that gets flushed into our waterways untreated, which fuels algae blooms. Which algae occurs naturally in our environment, but when there's too much of it and too many nutrients, we get these algae blooms, and which can be toxic to our health and to our animals. But when it dies, it smells really, really bad, and it kind of gives a bad perception of Hamilton Harbor. So I'd like to say that algae blooms are more and more frequent with climate change as well. So we are doing some water testing down by Bayfront every Tuesday with volunteers to actually monitor certain parameters. Because we want to, like I said, get people down by the water and seeing the water itself and asking questions about algae and why does it smell like this, why does it look like this, and those sorts of things. So I would encourage you to get down by the water whenever you can, and we have a kiosk down at Bayfront Park. So if we're there, ask those questions, get involved some way. We have a bunch of volunteer opportunities coming up as well. We also do marsh volunteer planting, which is really, really fun. So to, again, bring back that water quality, we do plantings every summer in Coots Paradise Marsh. So we're running them throughout the summer. It's on our Facebook page if you'd like to join. And we get into Coots and plant some native plants or pull some invasive ones and bring that native vegetation back and make sure that our shorelines are bolstered from erosion and runoff and those sorts of things. So there's so many things I could talk about, but I mean, the water testing and the planting kind of go hand in hand right now. If you're looking for a volunteer opportunity and you're bored at home from quarantine, we have lots of things for you to do. So feel free to shoot us an email or check out our Facebook for the events, and we'd be happy to chat further while we're planting cattails or scooping that water out of the harbor.
That's awesome, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great.
This was really informative. I really learned a lot. And it's funny how sometimes you forget how really interconnected everything is, and especially nature and the environment. And like our choices can have really powerful impacts. So it was a really good reminder for me about some things that I need to brush up on too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for coming. It's great.
Yes, so I'm going to be saving this and I'll upload it to our Facebook because I know we had some Facebook users who don't have Instagram, so I'll be sure that we upload it there so it can be viewed there as well.
Fantastic.
Okay, so I just want to say one more time, thanks to Nuvo Network who support this initiative for us. And then, of course, thank you, Steve. And thank you, Christine, who I think she's away on a camping trip.
She is, yeah. She's probably in a canoe right now.
Oh, good for her. That's awesome. Also, I just wanted to remind, we have a BG Green Space photo contest. So for those interested, you can send in a picture of any type of green space. It could be a picture of animals or trees or yourself at your favorite park, whatever you would like. You can send in the picture by August 14th, either through Instagram or the BG Instagram, the BG Facebook, or you can email me at kayla@burlingtongreen.org. It's Kayla. And then we're going to upload these submissions to our Facebook, and then the picture with the most like wins a BG Eco Prize Pack. So it's just a fun little contest. So I really am looking forward to seeing all those great images. Okay. So I think that's about it. So thank you again, Steve.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.